Hello, everybody. Lisa and I have been chatting on here, trying to guide her to get her screen share working with the Ecamm software here. But we haven't been able to get it to work on both of our ends. So we decided that, as disappointing as that may be, you've been waiting, and we want to come here and talk with you. And we're very excited. I'm very excited to have Lisa here today. And she is so excited to share her presentation with you. But guess what? You're just going to have to wait a little bit until the actual training event starts, and then we definitely have that working. So we're not going to have any visuals, not all the visuals Lisa wanted to share with you today, but I think that I can do without the visuals because I love your brain and everything you've done
Thank
for singing. Thank you so
you.
much for joining today. How are you doing?
Well, pretty well, but I am at the end of a horrible cold. So if for some reason I go into a coughing attack or my face it goes off screen, it's because I'm having a very brief and disgusting coughing attack, and I'll be right back with you. But I feel good. I just sound pretty bad. So just a heads up and a warning that that could happen at any time. But at least I'm conscious and the fever is gone, and I'm very happy to share this is as all of my work with people. Oh, people are writing in. How cool is that? Hi, Leslie. And I just have a quick question too, Philippe. Will
Sure.
we're going to save a little time at the end, right? And so if people have questions, or about are they doing it right? I'm hoping we have time at the end for
Yeah,
any
we have definitely the whole time. Anybody listening, tuning in, thank you, and thank you for waiting. Sorry about the
questions.
late start, but we're so happy you're here. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. We can see them and see. I got here. Brina was like, "Nothing's coming. Where's Lisa?" And then Leslie said, "They're probably on a break." And Gail, I'm so happy to see Gail. Did you know that Gail was one of my first teachers at the university,
Hi,
and
Gail.
so nice to see her.
Are these older chats? So
No,
they're not
these are like a few minutes ago. Yeah,
okay. A few minutes ago before we started. Okay, so we're here. We're
we're
doing it. We
here. Cecily's there.
nice to
A lot of great people here. Thanks for joining in, guys. So we do have ability to interact with all your questions on the screen. I'll blend them in. We're not going to be able to pop someone in the meeting and actually work with them, but that is exactly what we are going to be doing in the intensive training program that's coming up in just a few weeks. We will be definitely interacting with the singers a lot more. So I know you just had, when I talked to Lisa, she was basically traveling around the world like I was at the height of my career. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you still have the energy, Lisa? You're like everywhere.
it was passion, I mean, passion, you don't pick passion, it picks you. And all of the participants who are joining us today know what that feels like, that you sing sick, you act sick, you dance sick, you function sick. If it's something you really want to do, it's amazing how you can find the energy, and with and enough skill behind you, and experience helps too, you can really surprise yourself, and then you can go to bed and stay in bed for a week after. But it's I mean, I've sung with every kind of illness you can imagine, and pull it off, so
Yeah.
it's fun. It takes your mind off of it too. So I not only just presented in Paris, Istanbul, and Athens, but next year I got invited to locations far afield, Kazakhstan and Bulgaria, a couple of cities in Romania, and Azerbaijan. So I'm really happy to be able to talk in English to a new group of people who are interested in the latest and greatest and what works. Just vocal technique mostly is what they are because we're going to talk about that in the intensive, is what's going on in the world and how do they think about what we
Yeah.
know and our research. So we're going to talk more about that, and maybe in the podcast that we are, maybe not in the intensive. I think we might do that in our future podcast. And there's a lot going on in the world that we, as mostly Americans joining today, don't think about, that is relevant to us as world citizens. So again, I have this beautiful presentation for you today. So I want to talk about support. Shall I just kick in? Shall I just start going? You know,
Yeah, we're gonna kick in. We'll just bounce some things back and forth. And I just think I just want to comment. I think it's amazing. You told me, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and all these different vocalization methods people have been using around the world, and they do it, and they've been doing it for a long time.
but
And
they sometimes have vocal problems because they don't have necessarily a vocal technique or a vocal rest protocol that can help them do, like in Azerbaijan, mugam is fascinating, and it's a form of, it's belting basically, but they sing for so long at such high volumes
yes,
that they do have vocal problems. So they can all benefit from just a tweaking of their vocal technique, in terms of like what I want to talk about today, which is about a very methodical method to support. So you
yeah,
don't just support by putting your body underneath your sound or whatever that means to a person, or just sitting up straight. That might not be enough. So I'm really looking forward to presenting at the
yeah,
Azerbaijan Music Academy for mugam singers who
yeah.
sing high chest voice, long periods of time with amazing skill. Guys, if you haven't heard Mugam, check it out online. It's Mugham. It'll give you a lot of inspiration about what is humanly possible in terms of high chest voice, and it's
Amazing.
beautiful. It's very moving and very difficult on the vocal
I'm gonna
cords.
check that out. I might have to tag along with you because I've always wanted to go there. Um, earlier today, I talked about passive, what I'm just calling passive support. You
Mhm.
know, how we even get air in and create the subglottal pressure. And I told everybody you're going to be talking about the active support side. I'm sure there's some crossover, but yeah, go for it. I'm excited. We're all excited and looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you. So, our catchy little title is "Support Right, Not Tight." And let me pull up. Oh, let me just pull up here my presentation. I'll just read off of that. So I don't know if you guys know, but I've been studying the voice for a shocking 60 years and have been teaching for 40 years, age of the dinosaur stuff Philippe and I joke about. So I've been experimenting. There she is. She's my hostess. Ah, see, I've been selling you already, girl. Yeah. Oh, she's so lovely. Um, yeah, pushing the mugam. Okay, so we've all heard about support, and I actually have come to the conclusion that it is active support, knowing exactly what to do and doing it for all your notes, not just loud notes and not just high notes, and in any style from opera to musical theater, pop, rock, jazz, R&B, country, is maybe the most important functional thing any singer does. It's a little bit boring because it's foundational. Everyone wants to do the decoration part and the emotional part. But if your voice doesn't work for you, if it's inconsistent, if you feel like there are things you should be able to do but can't do, the vocal cords may not be able to do them by themselves. I want to talk about that. So, what is support? What is this thing that we've all heard about, but is never quite explained in a really, to me, satisfying way? Support is short for abdominal breath support, and it's the action of the thoracic and abdominal muscles which pressurize outgoing air to vibrate the vocal folds. And a lot of singers don't realize that the vocal folds do not vibrate themselves. They can thicken and thin with the other laryngeal muscles, and they can close and open, but they do not vibrate themselves. And a lot of teachers teach that you've got to put more air through, but it's actually not the air itself that makes them vibrate. It's the pressure or the force of the air that makes them vibrate. So it's like, what do we do specifically with our chest, our ribs, our upper abdomen, our lower abdomen, maybe our waist, that will pressurize this outgoing air so that the vocal folds vibrate easily without having to warm up or guess or just feel lucky that day. I used to feel lucky until I experimented with millions of different support methods taught around the world and have come up with one that I think is just so reliable. And I'm not saying the other methods don't work. I'm just saying that this one is road tested and works for me and works for every singer I work with in any style. And then I had a slide about the diaphragm because there's still a lot of misinformation with singers, even and teachers sometimes, about the location and function of the diaphragm. And
Right.
the problem with the diaphragm is that you can't feel it, see it, touch it. But it's always working, otherwise we wouldn't be alive. So the diaphragm is much higher in the body than a lot of singers think. I've been over the decades been taught that sing from your diaphragm, sing from your diaphragm, sing from your diaphragm. I mean, almost every body part, even some intimate parts, I was told to sing from, which also didn't tell me what I was necessarily supposed to do with that area. I was just supposed to sing from my core or sing from your gut or push this out, but not, I didn't know how much because you could overdo it too. So the diaphragm it's a thin dome shaped muscle and it sits below the lungs. And its job is to move up and down. Oh, thank you, Philippe. But where it is really remarkably higher. And so when you're touching your abdomen, that's not your diaphragm. But it is a way to control, that was sweet, but it's a way to control your diaphragm, but it's not actually the diaphragm. So it's really thin. And when it pushes down, it pulls the lungs, by the way, are not muscle. They're just these sacs. And so they don't open them and close themselves. So when the ribs open on the side and the diaphragm lowers, then that pulls the lungs open. And then when the diaphragm moves up and the ribs collapse, that makes the air go out of the lungs. But knowing that doesn't help us sing better. It's unfortunately. So then I said that okay, there's no agreement on how to teach support. I kind of already implied that. The
Yeah.
problem is that if the posture and the support aren't useful, beneficial, or the chords aren't working well, you'll get compensatory tension, and that can be so many different things. It could mean that your head is pulling, twisting, lifting. Jaw could be overly tight. Tongue can do all kinds of weird tight things. Tongue root, neck muscles popping out, getting red in the face, weird tics in the face. When you go for a high note, like one eyebrow goes up more. There's just so many ways we can have compensatory tension, but mostly the worst one is when it feels like you're being choked
Mhm.
and you feel like you're having trouble getting the sound out.
Yeah.
These are all these supraglottal, supra meaning above, glottis meaning at the level of your vocal folds, that supraglottal muscles are trying to help because the cords aren't happy. They're not getting what they need. So our job is to provide the vocal folds, and they're so small. I mean, remember, they're only about as they're if they're if let me see, I'm not mirroring very well, but anyway, they're really small. Smaller than we realize, and they deserve a lot of love and respect because they do so much for us, but they require a steady stream of subglottal pressure. Otherwise, the other guys above the vocal folds will try to help. The worst compensatory tension that we have to avoid, especially if you sing a lot, is vocal fold pressing or squeezing, is maybe a better term. And that is a way for people to try to make their chords work when they're not getting the subglottal pressure that's right for that note. Now,
Mhm.
again, I said naturally we might support for high notes and loud notes or chest voice M1 high notes, but we need to support all of our notes, low notes, soft notes, head voice notes, all of our notes. Otherwise, there'll be some weakness or inconsistency or compensatory tension.
I
All
love
right.
compensatory tension. That term just resonates with me so well. Because it can, that's, we had a discussion earlier about, do we want to avoid all tension in singing? And
And I
I
have a
said no. I said no, because if you have no tension, nothing's going on.
right. And that led me to my next slide, which is thank you for the lead in. My next slide is relaxation is not the key to great singing. So certain things have a job and other things should be relaxed. But relaxation, see, when I had compensatory tension, uh, my teachers would sometimes take me on a lengthy, 6 months of tongue relaxation exercises, which was boring and a waste in a way, because the problem was that my chords weren't getting what they needed because my teacher, bless her heart, was not really able to show me exactly how to support. So that's why my tongue was tight. So doing lots and lots of relaxation exercise, I mean, there's a place for it, but to me, it's not a pedagogy. It's not a way you learn how to sing.
Yes.
So I teach jobs, this thing, do this with this body part, do this. And when you do it, it's kind of like learning to drive a car. You just put the key in and the car starts and you're singing instead of accidentally singing well because you did lots of vocal. I'm just anti doing vocal exercises all the time as a way to sing better. It has its place, but not as a substitution for knowing exactly what to do. So I'm very mechanistic because that's what worked for me is like, just know, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then when you do it, then you can start singing songs. And so another thing I wanted to mention while I'm, have on my soapbox here is that I think it's important to separate two different terms. Wait, I'll pull it over here. Two different terms in singing pedagogy. And that's the use of the term breathing to include support. It's not good. I used to go from teacher to teacher, so many years of lessons, and they'd call it all breathing. They'd say, oh, we have to start at the beginning. Let's get on the floor. We have to work on your breathing. But my problem was not my breathing, it was my support. So I like to separate them in my mind that breathing in singing means taking a breath in or air intake, and how to do that quickly, quietly, invisibly. And so, but we're not going to talk about that today. So that's breathing. Support to me is what are the actions I need to take to provide that outgoing pressure, as I've said, for the air that leaves the body when you are singing. So breathing for me as a singer is when I'm not singing, and support is what I do when I am singing, and not to conflate the two terms and call it all breathing. But
That's perfect. That's
most
perfect.
teachers, they've spent their whole teaching careers calling it all breathing, so I don't expect them to change. But I hope you will. I hope you realize that students need to know: are we working on breathing? Are we working, like taking air in so it's you're not, wheezing every phrase, or taking it in so you're not chest heaving, or whatever your goals are for breathing. Now, how to breathe effectively for professional singing is a very interesting. That's a whole workshop, a
Yeah.
short one. It's not that hard, and support is also going to be very easy. And I'm going to show you my method in a second. So the foundations of functional voice, everything else is decorative, but the cake. Okay, optimal inhale. Thank you. I'm glad Philippe and I, we can't talk together enough, really. Are like, it's just like, we just could go. Um, it's so exciting. So three foundations of functional voice are posture. Don't do any of this stuff. Don't breathe without good posture. Don't support without good posture. Don't sing without good posture, unless they're paying you to sing on your back or to sing slumped over because that's the character. But in terms of singing well with control, and do all kinds of things with your voice, postures is essential. Again, boring, but essential. So posture, support, and breathing are the three foundations. So to I teach posture from the feet up, but the three takeaway keys I for good posture are have the back of the neck long. It makes a big difference. It changes the spine, it changes the chest, and gravity's always pushing down on us, and we're always leaning over our laptops and our phones. So we have to fight gravity like our lives depend on it. And so we're not just a greasy spot at the end. So we have the back of the neck long and the head on top of the body, and the sternum should be high, and the sternum would be
Can I jump in there and interrupt you in your flow? I have to do this because just 2 days ago, I had a client that he says to me, Philippe, he's from another country, so I'm doing a really bad accent. I did this, and I could sing so much better. Why?
I know it's such a hack. It's such a simple hack that you could do this with, a 7-year-old. It just works because it changes everything.
Yeah.
So I think having the back of the neck long but soft
Hmm.
is a great first step. Having the sternum high, making sure that the not just the top part, but that the whole sternum, the whole breastbone is lifted. So I use an imaginary hook. You take your fingers and you put like a hook under the bone. Let me adjust my bosom there, and then you just you just keep that up. But the third thing that's important to remember is that you want to have your abdomen, that means your upper belly and your lower belly, soft. Don't squeeze your belly just because you're lifting your chest, because they tend to. Haven't you found that, Philippe, that there's that tendency when you lift the chest, now the bellies get tight? And
Yes.
I'm saying tight bellies, tight neck. In fact, you can experiment with it at home right now, where you tighten your bellies and you'll feel your throat grab. So we want a high chest, but separate. Don't use your bellies to hoist your chest up. You can just do it yourself with soft belly. So that's posture. Back of the neck long, sternum high, soft abdomen. And you guys have probably heard of the term epigastrium. I never used it, but it's a good, or epigastrum, some people say, but epigastrium, it's an interesting area. It's this area. Right in here, right in the center. And I spent an hour and a half with a British anatomist once with his fabulous programming hands. Like, what is that area? And we didn't come up after an hour and a half in his hotel room at a conference. We never really came up to a conclusion, but it's really simple. It's
Is that the area that's in front of the is it the not the what is that nerve cluster down there? It's like
the xiphoid process.
ah
I'm more of a
no,
nerve
it's
cluster.
like there's the vagus nerve goes down to behind this because there's some people saying the solar plexus doesn't even really exist. It's like
It's
behind
just
this.
yeah, I don't really know what to me it
I'll
gets
look
into
it up.
like what's a chakra. So I've just never figured that one out, so I left it. But here's what it's not. The epigastrium, this area, it's not an organ and it's not a muscle. It's rather a region of activity. And I think that really works for me. It's a region of activity. So when the diaphragm, now hang in there with me because I'm going to get a little technical, people. When the diaphragm descends, when it goes down, which happens when air comes in, when you breathe in, the diaphragm pushes this epigastrium area, what I call the upper belly, outward. So by keeping the upper belly extended outward, firmed outward, it's a sign that your diaphragm is in a more lowered position. Though it is not technically the diaphragm, it is the way to monitor diaphragmatic action. And so keeping the diaphragm lower longer than in nature will help, is one of the main ingredients in producing outgoing air pressure. So we're going to come back to the upper belly in a second. I just wanted to introduce you to that
Yeah,
term because
I
you
like it.
might
I
you
just
might hear
checked.
it
I
and go,
checked
well, what is
myself.
it?
Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. I just checked myself just because solar plexus. A lot of people. What I meant to say was a lot of people are confusing that with a muscle, and the solar plexus itself is the nerve cluster back there. And you're talking about the digastrium that's coming out, and that's what people associate that area with, because a lot of singing support, uh, a lot of teachers teaching support say you got to push out your solar plexus, which
Ah,
is right and wrong. We're trying to get a little clarity in exactly what you're saying. That area is coming out, but the solar plexus is actually a nerve cluster. It doesn't move
I'll,
like a muscle.
I'll write it down and check because I never did actually, which is unlike me, figure out what the solar plexus, because I didn't, and my teachers didn't talk about solar plexus. Um,
It's
and
quite prevalent today. Like so many people are like, put your hand right there in your in what you're talking there and
Mhm,
push
mhm.
out. And I find that can lead to that upper abdominal tension if it's really quickly if it's overdone.
And if it's too much. So you don't just stick it out hard like a rock. And you have to find the right amount to, the chords. I'm always feeling my vocal folds. So they tell me what is the right amount of pressure. They determine the pressure rather than just some random sticking out the spot. Now, 30 years ago when I made my total singer video, I thought that this area, the upper belly, that the whole area was involved. But I've since refined it to what I call the magic spot. And it's a spot for most people that's in the center area. Mine built a little bit low. My spot is you have to find the spot that goes out the most when you make a loud sh sound like this. Shh, shh, shh. Most people's it's a little bit higher. Now, I've had a couple people where it's like two dots that go out the most. And then I've had people with scoliosis where it was off to the side. Their magic spot was off to the side. So, but again, I would always start here first and then make a loud sh sound, shh, shh, and just try to poke around and find the spot that naturally goes out when we make a really loud sh sound. And in workshops that I do, a lot of people are self conscious and they go, shh, and I go, no, you got to do it loudly if you really want to discover your magic spot. And again, its job is to gently firm out and stay out for the whole phrase, not go in at the end like it wants to. It's natural for things to collapse, for the chest to collapse, the ribs to collapse, the upper belly to go in. But so I'm really glad to hear though that at least people are starting to, because to me it is the upper belly magic spot firming outward
Mm-hmm.
me, the main pressure controller for the vocal folds. But the I haven't been hearing that in the voice community. So maybe I'm helping, maybe because I've been talking about this for a long time now. Maybe I'm actually helping. I'm hoping I'm helping getting the word out that this is really important if you want to solve a variety of vocal problems. Let me check. Okay. Just
Yeah,
want to check the time here.
you're good. We're totally comfortable on time. We don't
Oh,
have
right.
any time restraints because you get to have the luxury of being the last
Yeah.
speaker of the day. So I wanted to point out that because the posture elements you talked about, that if that posture element's not there, that the solar plexus area, that magic spot, it can't it gets too
Goes in.
tight. Yeah,
Yeah, it did. Now, if the upper belly is soft and doesn't move, that's a problem. People tend to have quite weak voices. If it goes in, they tend to get it can't hold. There's problems for each of them. The only thing is to just think of that upper belly magic spot going out as like a feels like a trampoline. They're in the consistency. There's a little give to it, but it definitely goes out. And in a lot of people, especially females, it's weak and it can be strengthened and should be strengthened by doing some simple what I call shoot pattern exercises, which I can talk about another time, that that really help to strengthen it. So it shows up right away as a whole bunch. Oh, hi, I got you. A whole bunch of solutions to problems that you might think are caused by something else, and we'll get to that. Now, I separate. To me, the abdomen is made of two parts. The upper belly separate from the lower belly. And recently, I've been doing a lot of support, what I call comparative breath support strategies that have been taught around the world. And I'm always adding to that. I saw one interestingly, I was just on a cruise in the Mediterranean. I know, I know. I can't believe my life. And I saw this really good singer performing, and not world class, but very good. And she was standing like this. It was kind of musical theater. She was standing slumped over, and then when she'd sing, she'd push down. It looked very amateurish and distracting, but she sang great. So that was another example of how some people who are just very talented can do things that are technically wrong or less than ideal, and they still sound great. But as teachers, we want to teach the best we can. And I just
Yeah.
don't recommend slumping anyway. It was
No.
not a good look. So let me talk about the lower belly. And by this, I mean precisely thumb on the belly button, hand below, not splayed out, but hand below. So it's really this whole area, kind of like a watermelon wedge. Like there we go. And so there's so many different methods taught. There's the do nothing method. There's the out and down method, which is the worst, I think. There's the in and up method that's kind of accidentally makes the upper belly move out. So I see that in the classical world taught sometimes. There's the in and down method. There's my favorite, as I'll go over in detail in a second, is the straight in. So it clutches straight in for making sound and relaxes for breathing. Support by going straight in. And it's the high note helper. It's less of a pressure controller. It's more of an airflow controller. And it's really good for easy high notes, whether you're doing M1 or M2, meaning chest voice or head voice. It makes high notes so like, oh my God, I never got that note before.
I I'm hoping so much that everybody that I've talked about this subject is listening and just getting the confirmation again and again.
I'm so glad that, because there's still teachers out there talking, if they talk about the abdomen at all, because I still know there's a few well-known pedagogies out there that are kind of anti-support. Don't support. The chords will take care of themselves. Well, if you're one of those rare pre-talented people, maybe that's true, but the rest of you might have serious vocal problems and vocal fatigue, lesions on your vocal folds, inability to sing later in life. So the chords don't take care of themselves. They're too tiny and too fragile, and we have to uh, keep them happy. So that's the lower belly action. So let me move on. So to me the proven, road tested, works on almost. I would have been happy with a support method that worked for 9 out of 10 people, but I found this works for 10 out of 10 people. So if you're a young teacher, um, give this a try. So there's four main jobs of support. There's some extra ones for extra benefits, but the four main ones: it's simple, teachable, memorable, and more importantly, they work. Job one of support: keep your chest up. This upper chest, don't let it drop as air leaves the body when you're singing. Keep it up. Just do it in the mirror, because it'll lie. All these jobs will lie. They'll tell you they're staying up, and then you go, oh, it didn't stay up. And even touching it, it'll lie. I'll see people go down like that, and they thought they kept it up. So mirror, 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 mirror. So you keep the chest up even as you're on your last dregs of air. Job two of support: keep the side ribs. Well, I like to, and you probably talk about this, Philippe, I'm not sure, but it's kind of a rib setup, is that when you take air in, if you just widen them slightly all the way around, sides and back ribs. Who else shows their bosom with impunity? Okay, I'm glad I wore my good
I'll
bra.
show my bosom with impunity as well here. Yeah.
Philip, try your hands a little higher. And the reason is that the lower ribs, always the floating ribs, the ones I think Kim Kardashian just had removed. Anyway, that I digress. These ribs will always move in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
The ones that you want to really monitor are the kind of a nipple height rib. So it's closer. Now, some people aren't flexible and can't get their hands up there, but
That's
try. Yeah, that's a good spot. And then you widen them slightly simply by inhaling and telling them to widen, and then you keep them there. You don't have to have 100% width, though I did it for opera, and you probably did it too, Philippe, for
Yeah.
opera, which was
Well,
maximum
I do
width. But
talk about that because I try and get singers. I say for about 97% of everything you're ever going to have to sing, you just need to find that comfortable expansion where you can stay there all day, and then you're going to have the extreme levels where you might need
yeah,
that.
a little bit more, yeah, or max.
Yeah.
And I don't have a big voice, so I need to, maximize this little resonator that I have, to because the big, because you don't have the big truck head either. A lot of singers. So anyway, so we're going to keep the ribs comfortably widened, and then their job in support is to stay there and not to accordion, not to
Yes.
collapse. There's
Yes.
still our older classical teachers who teach to inhale, widen the ribs, and then allow them to collapse for singing. And I just think it's not as good. So be look like this. And you got to really keep those muscles strong so that they don't collapse, the intercostal
So
muscle.
when you're doing the controlled exhalation on the you're working at the maintaining the expansion.
Yeah, exactly. Maintaining the strength of the inhalation muscles. So, yes, so maintaining the rib stability, so they're not collapsing, even though they want to. And then there's the third, and to me the most important one, the upper belly, the magic spot, and its job is to gently firm out and stay out for the whole phrase, like this. And then it relaxes and it goes in, interestingly. It goes in for breathing. Shh, 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 shh. And to do that simple exercise, you actually have to crescendo at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants, when they first start doing this, they'll all do this. They'll go, the long part of it, they'll go, shh, like a
Yeah.
balloon that's running out of air. You want to
Mm.
maintain the pressure past the last note of your phrase, not collapse at the last note of
Yeah.
the phrase where, the last note gets all.
So I have a
So,
question for you on that. When just because I'm aware that some people with that, it's funny. I usually tell people that also to go three fingers up from your belly button and three fingers down from your sternum, and somewhere in there you find the magic spot. But I agree, it's different. Every person a little different. When you're recommending to sustain that outward push, um, we, you're also. I'm trying to set you up for a response, but how do you help them from not overworking, over tightening, so that upper abdominal muscles around there aren't
I'm
locking up
just
at the
making
same
a
time?
sound. I'm not sticking it out hard like a rock. I'm making a very strong sound. And as the teacher and the professional ears, I'm listening. Did I hear the pressure in the airstream? Did it
Yes.
sound like the sound was filling the room instead of
Mm-hmm.
that it's
Yeah.
uh, but I do think the magic spot is higher than that. It's really close in my experience. It's closer to below the sternum, and not as far down. But again, you have to poke around. But
Yeah.
I've had success with it a little higher. And then sometimes I've had students whose belly buttons were really low,
Yeah.
and we see this sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like super low, and so for them, I'll for the lower belly, just like where is it? I'll do it where I put the thumb. Here's the belly button. Hello. I'll put the thumb above the belly button. So
Mm-hmm.
I move the hand up a little bit.
Okay.
And so the upper belly, the sh pattern is great because it's four short ones. It's sh, sh. Let me do it sideways. Sh, 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 sh. Wait, sorry, I didn't know how to change the mirroring because it's not mirroring. Here's the long part. I'm off on the count of five. Shh. then you release it for breathing. So you kind of hold it extra long to
Yeah.
train the belly to stay active past the last note instead of going relaxing on the last note of
Yeah.
whatever the pose is. And this strengthens it. And then before you know it, like, a day or a week, it just does it by itself. But I always monitor it with the fingers too. So the upper belly works like a wall. It just stays out and then relaxes for breathing. But the lower belly works differently. And
Hmm.
that's gradually clutches in. And there's always more inwardness than you'd think there would be, considering how many organs are in there. But I always can get a little more in. Shh, 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 shh. And here's the long one, off on the count of 5. Shh. And I'm doing a complete release in between each one as part
Hmm.
of the exercise. And this is a great warm up exercise because this is the driver of the vocal folds.
It's
And
amazing.
why just wear your vocal folds out in when you want the driver to, you want the
Yeah.
machinery to warm up. So then the chords go, okay, I got this. So there's the clutching action of the lower belly and against the wall action of the upper belly, and the whole time the rib cage is expanded. Cecily, training rib expansion, I find it's helpful to have students stretch the back. Yes. Oh, a lot of people are interesting. I haven't found that. One of my favorite stretching exercises, and maybe Cecily, you've seen me do this, is that I call it the "I Dream of Jeannie," which really dates me. But that was a popular show in the '60s. And what you do is you do like a little back bend, and you put your thank you, Philippe, and you put your hands like there, and then you inhale through your nose and you try to aim it to the upper back like this. And then, oh, I'm making faces. And then you exhale slowly as though through a straw as you continue to stretch the upper back. Well, I'm going to show it again. It almost hurts a little bit. So it's very unnatural for those ribs to stretch and stay stretched. So that's part of a whole stretch series. I really love stretching as a vocal warm up, and particularly the sideways stretching with breathing. We will, that's a whole breathing workshop. The upper chest, leaning backwards, putting your fists in your pits. I mean, there's all kinds of things that make a huge difference as warm ups rather than just
Yeah.
blasting away.
I,
So
I love that stretch. I have never tried that, but it's I really liked it. Like between the shoulder blades, I dream of Jeannie. I'm gonna think of that now. But very interesting to exhale and maintain it. It actually, I've been
feel
sitting here for
the
7 hours
hurt.
straight, so that it was very felt really good right now.
Okay, good. They felt like, oh, I need to do that. So thanks for
Yeah.
mentioning that, Cecily. Give us a chance to explore that. So, okay, I'm going to wrapping things up here. So here's a warning, and it's so not fun and games. If you don't support, you will likely squeeze your vocal folds at some point,
Yeah.
and like that, they swell, and when they swell, you get hoarse. And when you get hoarse, you get lesions. When they swell, you can get polyps, cysts, lesions, and surgery and scar tissue. And that's not, we want to make sure our students, we never want to have one student who has a vocal problem. So
Right.
whether they're touring, even if they're old, um, so there's the compensatory tension aspect, but more importantly, we need to be the protectors of our clients' vocal folds and our own. So that's why this is not just fun and games. It's super important. And happy vocal folds need precise subglottal pressure to close and to vibrate with maximum efficiency. And when you do your posture and support, it's amazing what kinds of problems it can fix. I mean, like seemingly random problems like register breaks sometimes are fixed just by posture and support. You don't have to do 3 months of exercises necessarily. A weak voice. I'm working with a famous actress right now who's experienced weak voice, and I realized no one ever told her about posture and support. I'm also going to work with her immediately on vocalis contraction exercises and
Mm,
closure exercises to build up strength in the laryngeal area, but always without pressing the cords or just whacking them together. Breathiness. If you're experiencing breathiness and you don't want to have it, if it's like not an artistic choice, but it's actually like a flaw in your technique, do posture and support and see if you can't get those cords to close as your brain has asked them to do. Limited vocal range, like I should have higher notes. Why don't do the lower belly extra in? You'll find that those high notes just pop out. Pitch problems. Even some people have pitch problems because they're don't have enough pressure in the airstream. Most students I work with, Philippe, are under pressurize the vocal folds.
hmm
It's very rare. I mean, occasionally we'll get some overachiever who, whatever you tell them to do, they'll do it 150%. But that's rare. Most people they approach things with fear and a
hmm
sense of trepidation. And so everything's on the weak side. Vibrato problems. If somebody doesn't have a vibrato or it's inconsistent, posture and support will help them control their vibrato. And I also have a whole series of exercises and techniques that fix vibrato problems of all sorts, including having none. And vocal fatigue. If you want, I toured. I don't know if you guys know, but I toured with Weird Al Yankovic in 2019, which was one of the great experiences of my life. And well, a bunch of oldsters that were, just rocking it on stage to, like 250,000 people. And so I got to see firsthand, um, not myself, because my gig was pretty easy. I only had to sing backup for an hour and a half and dance my little tushy off center stage. It was so fun. But to, work with Al, as I worked with him over the decades, what helps him keep the freshness of his voice for all the crazy things that he would put his voice through, and he's not 20 anymore, and he was amazing. Other topics we can talk about, vocal fold deduction control, demystifying vocal registers, belting techniques, and there isn't just one belting sound, contrary to popular belief. It's not always blasty, loud, and resonant. There's different belting substyles, comparing different vocal styles, difference. That's kind of what I'm known for, but I've done so much on it. I'm like moving on. But what are the differences between opera, operetta, legit musical theater, uh, pop, rock, jazz, country? And I've also taught people in India, because I've studied Indian voice. So there's 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 lots. There's lots. It can get as deep as you want, but it all to me starts with posture and support, and everything else is decor or culture. So I think that's it. I mean, there's waist
That
support,
was
but it
that was
doesn't
a
work.
great
So I
a
think
great wrap up, and it's a perfect segue into what we're doing, because I too have sung so many different styles professionally, and that was always my passion. Gail Lockwood and Jan Sullivan, that's who I started with, and they just instilled in me this belief that you can sing anything with your voice, and I did it. I did it professionally for 30 years all around the world. And the big five coordinations of singing, that's our intensive training event coming up here in just a couple of weeks, where we are going to be training your coordination and skill level in all of these articulations or coordinations. What can the vocal folds do actually by themselves? What do they need the air for? Finding the precise amount, like you keep saying, amount of subglottal pressure for the sound you need. And that's how the big five are coming together, because if you can't get the exact right amount of subglottal pressure, what use is it going to be for you to do some of the other things? And then, like you said again and again, something else will compensate. You'll get the compensatory tension, and then you won't be able to execute, even if you have the right formula, right? You can't execute the formula without the balance of these. So we're going to be working on that for 4 weeks. I'm super excited to learn more from Lisa and her vast experience, and you can see how this is just the surface, right? We're going to get into some meat and have some wonderful classes. We're going to be able to work with singers more individually in our private Zoom meetings. Lisa will be able to share her screen. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So for you, Lisa, how for what kind of singers do you think this kind of intensive training event that we're doing, who's it going to be most beneficial for?
Well, I always try to keep things simple. So there's something for everybody. Though I can get as sciencey as anyone might want, I think it's more memorable to have the takeaways that the people can try right away at home by themselves and see instant results. So my goal as a teacher has been try to take the mystery out of singing, and though I can try to be impressive and use lots of Latin terms, and uh, I want people to go, oh, I got it. I can do that. I couldn't do that before, and now I can. And so I think I really enjoy speaking to voice doctors, speech pathologists internationally at their conferences, and but explain things in a way that even with their knowledge, they can. It's easy to understand. So
Yes.
um, some of it's rehabilitation, and some of it's vocal technique, and some of it's artistry. Sometimes I not as much, but I do get asked to present quite a bit on what are the hallmarks of vocal artistry. But that's not what this month year intensive is about. It's about the mechanics, having a deeper understanding of how things function, and how to make things work well. So I'd say it's for anybody, even teenagers who are have the passion for learning about voice, like you and I have.
Well, thank you so much for that. I absolutely agree. And we know that artistry, obviously, that is the whole purpose of learning technique, is to be
Go.
a free artist, right? To be able to combine these skills as you increase your skill level, you can combine things in much more efficiently. You'll be able to sing for decades. You'll restore, your vocal health, protect your voice. So many advantages. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I know you all have enjoyed this.
Philippe.
So remember, if I put everything in the description, the links in there, how to sign up for this event. We've got the coupon codes for each teacher in there, and just click the link. If you have any more questions, reach out. It's been a joy, and I can't wait to start our intensive in a few. Oh, let me also just say, Lisa's mentioned it. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun together. I'm gonna still secretly try to tag along to Azerbaijan, but but we are also doing a podcast where Lisa's going to talk more about these what's going on in the world, and I think that's going to be a very fascinating podcast. And before then, we get to work with Lisa and all these other great teachers on a weekly basis for 4 weeks. And please join us. Have a lovely day. Thank you to everybody that's tuning in. Alexandra has been really diligent today. She's been here for almost every presentation. So bless you. I know it's probably 1 a.m. where you're at. So thank you so much for listening, everyone. Thanks again, Lisa.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye. See you soon.
Bye.